Good afternoon, everyone. Now we officially start our session of e-leadership. And today we are indeed fortunate. First and foremost, I would like to introduce our expert. Our expert for the day is Dr. Anwar Parvez Saeed. He is the country director of UW International Training and Education Center for Health, ITEC India. He's also a clinical associate professor in the Department of Global Health, University of Washington. And to this, I would like to add my introduction that he is one of those people who know all the nuances of the program and who has been working with HIV within and outside India for a very, very long time. So I think we could not have got a better speaker to talk on ART today. Welcome, Dr. Anwar. And now I welcome all our friends from Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, and the Northeast states who join us every afternoon on Thursdays despite their busy schedules. I welcome them to this session. Then I would like to introduce my team. There is obviously Dr. Anuradha there, who is our coordinator. You can see her from the studio. Unfortunately, I couldn't join the studio today as I was having a little bit of viral fever, so I decided for infection control purposes, I should stay home. Then we have Gaurav, and then we have our doctor. Is Mr. Rakesh there today?
Yes, ma'am, he's there with us. Yes.
So Mr. Rakesh from Share India is our new IT coordinator from Share India, and then we would have Mr. Prateek. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. Right, ma'am.
So welcome team, and thank you for all the support that you do to make these sessions possible. And while I'm welcoming Dr. Neetu and Dr. Pramila, can we please have the attendance poll so that we don't keep on wasting time? I'll keep on talking in the back.
The poll has been launched, ma'am. Requesting all the participants to kindly fill in the poll. It's there
So
on your.
Please, can I request you all to please kindly mark your attendance while I talk about the agenda? So I have introduced my colleagues and presenters. Then there will be a case presentation. Today there are two case presentations. One is from Lucknow and one is from Sikkim. Both are revolving around the same issue, which is the issue of ART, the newly introduced DTG and its side effects in cases of HIV-TB. Yes, following which there will be a didactic by our expert, Dr. Anwar. After the didactic, we would also request him to give his expert opinion on the cases that were presented, if anything more could have been done, or what would be the take-home message from these two cases. Because it is each one learns from the other, it's each one teaches one, each one learns from the other. So this is the philosophy behind ECHO. And of course, we will have our polls and a case summary and recommendation. So with this introduction of the agenda, I would request everyone to just go ahead with their poll of attendance.
Ma'am, just to let you know, we also have Dr. Reshu Agarwal joining from CDC also today. So I can see her name.
Welcome, Dr. Reshu. I am actually doing it from a small screen, so I'm not able to see everyone. Dr. Reshu is has always been for the past years a big force behind our national ART program. And we are indeed fortunate to have you. She is now working with CDC, but she has worked for NACO for years and years and helped in formulating the program. Welcome, Dr. Reshu.
Thanks so much, Dr. Prashna.
Have we closed the poll, Dr. Anuradha?
Not yet, ma'am. Requesting all the participants to fill in the polls. Only 15 participants have answered. So out of 47, so requesting all of you to kindly fill in the polls.
Please attendance, I request once again, please mark your attendance on this poll. How many minutes have elapsed?
Ma'am, it's 6 minutes past 2.
And the poll has been on for how long? I'm so sorry I'm asking you today for all these things. Actually,
no problem, ma'am. No problem. Understand completely, ma'am.
slightly woozy in the head also.
It's been 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, ma'am, that the poll has been live. So we will just close it in another half minute.
Yeah, 30 seconds, and please close the poll and launch the pretest questionnaire.
Sure, ma'am. Ma'am, we have stopped the first poll. Now the pretest is on your screens. We have launched the pretest. This one is very important because this will let us know about how much knowledge you have gained after the session. So kindly fill in the pretest poll. There are only 2 questions. Both are MCQ based. Thank you.
So requesting all participants to kindly fill in the pretest questions as soon as possible so that we have more time for our case presentations and experts. While everybody is attempting the pre-test questionnaire, let me just, I have one information to share that all our colleagues from ART centers who presented cases, their certificates are now ready. There will be one certificate for each case that was presented. And very soon, those certificates would be reaching you either by email or in a little bit of a meeting in which we could probably send it to everybody. So thanks one again to all our case presenters. I think we can close the poll now, Anuradha.
All right, ma'am.
And request Dr. Neetu to make the case presentation. So Dr. Pramila, your case would be immediately after Dr. Neetu's presentation. Is that okay?
Okay. Screen will be shared by your side,
Yes.
I think.
Yes, we are sharing the screen. It's there on the screen, ma'am.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Neetu Gupta, Senior Medical Officer, ART Plus Center, KGMU, Lucknow. We are here today to discuss the use of DTG-based regimens in HIV/TB co-infected patients and to discuss some probable side effects of this drug. As we all are aware, that recently NACO has launched this drug, dolutegravir DTG, 50 milligram, which we are using right now in all the 3 classes of failure, like first line, second line, and third line class ARPs. So we'll be using this drug more and more in future. So we'll be discussing about the side effect probably because it's a new drug. We don't know much about the side effects, what we are already having, and what will be the future side effects. So this is a great forum where we can use the knowledge of our expert to know about the probable side effects. Now, I'll start with my case. This is a case, I'm presenting here with a case of 33-year-old male patient who visited to us this year in March 2021. With mainly the patient presented to us with complaint of fever, chest pain, loss of appetite, and weight loss since 15 to 20 days. He was admitted in the ward, and based on the symptoms, an X-ray ultrasound was done in the ward itself, and the pleural fluid was also aspirated and was sent for routine examination from the ward itself. He was diagnosed as extrapulmonary clinical TB, and X-ray findings, they were positive, right-sided pleural effusion and heterogeneous opacities. He was accordingly initiated on ATT, CAT1 regimen with 43 kg weight. CD4 was less than 50, plus 46. So ART was started immediately on 17th of March with keeping a strict watch on LFT and iris as per the NACO guidelines. Patient was also started on ART with additional TLD plus additional dose of DTG along with CPT. On next visit, on 7th, patient came to us with complaint of diarrhea and vomiting, which was grade 2 in severity, and symptomatic treatment was given, like antidiarrheal and antiemetics were provided. And CPT was put on hold as there was low hemoglobin of 8.4 and also there was vomiting. Repeat LFT was advised. On subsequent visit, vomiting subsided with improvement in diarrhea. So now the patient is still on same ART and ATT regimen with improving symptoms and seems to tolerate the drug well. As I said, CD4 at initiation was 46 and next month he's due for his CD4, repeat CD4 and viral load testing. So viral load baseline is not done usually. Then laboratory reports, I'm telling you this serum creatinine is normal, as you can see. LFT is all normal with SALP bit raised in the on 17th. Urea creatinine was normal. Hemoglobin was 8.4 on 17th, and that why CPT was put on hold along with the because he was intolerating this drug also. RBS was normal, and pleural fluid examination is important. ADA was 280 unit per liter, which was positive, which was increased. TLC was 1400 with predominant lymphocytes 90%. Protein was 4.65 and sugar was 81.3 grams. AFB was not seen. CVNAT was not done because the sample was sent for ward. So at that time, CVNAT was not sent for sample along with the sample. X-ray on 2nd of March showed mild right-sided pleural effusion with septations and heterogeneous opacity in the right upper lobe, query Cox lung. Ultrasound was done on 23rd of February earlier, and hepatosplenomegaly with right-sided pleural effusion was there. As we already discussed, ATT regimen, CAT1 ATT was started from ART center along with ART regimen of TLD plus additional dose of DTG 50 mg. CPT was put on hold, and other medicines, symptomatic treatment was given like antiemetic, iron, antibiotic, B complex, etc. was given. So we are here for discussion of DTG based regimen in HIV TB co-infected patients and probable side effects of DTG dolutegravir.
So so Dr. Neetu, thank you very much for your presentation. I have one or two questions to ask. What was the HP of the patient before we started ART?
Ma'am, it was 9.8.
And after starting ART, it fell to?
Actually, ART was started on 17th only. It was 8.4 at the start of ART.
Oh, so it was 8.4 at the start of ART.
At baseline one.
At baseline itself, it was 8.4.
And again on 20th June we did, and it was 9.07.
So that would be just 3 days after that? No,
after 3 months I can say. It's 20th June 21.
So 20th June 21, and when, okay, so I'm so sorry. Yeah, so it was March and then June, right? So now it is 9.8.
Yeah, it's 9.07.
Right. Okay, thank you so much. And you said when he came on the next visit, the patient was staying. So yes. What would be approximately the date of the next visit?
I'll tell you. Yeah. It was 6th of April.
6th of April.
ART was started on 17th of March. Then patient came to us on 6th of April, a bit earlier, with complaints of this vomiting and diarrhea.
Yeah, so thank you so much. And before I summarize the case, would anybody from the house want to ask Dr. Neetu any additional information, any additional questions? Anuradha and Gaurav, please can you keep track of the chat? Because I am not very good at it and I am on a smaller
Yes, ma'am, sure, we'll let you know.
So is anybody raising a hand? Do you want any other information? Is there anyone wanting to say something? So as I think there is nobody wanting to ask any more information on this, I would just summarize this case before we move on to the second case. This is the case of a 33-year-old young male, 43 kg, obviously malnourished, and he registered with the ART center at Lucknow on 13/3/21. The reason he came to the ART center, as I understand from the sequence of events, is that he was diagnosed as TB on 2/3/21, that is 2nd March 21. And for some reason, his ATT was started after 10 days of the diagnosis, that is 13/3/21. And when the patient must have gone for the HIV-TB collaborative HIV testing, he must have also been found to be HIV positive. Am I correct, Dr. Neetu?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And that is when the ART center came into the picture and the patient was sent to the ART center. The patient registered, the ART center registered the patient on the same day. Because CD4 was less than 50, they started their ART on 17/3/21, that is 5 days after initiation of ART as per the national guidelines. So interestingly, the patient was 4S positive. We know that the patient was 4S positive. He came out to be TB. He was in their IPD where he was diagnosed as TB. And the point that is being made here is that he had right pleural effusion, but along with that, he also had a lesion in the right side of the lung. So this actually becomes a case who has pulmonary TB plus extrapulmonary TB. So as per the NTEP guidelines, it would be better to label it as pulmonary TB. You could say pulmonary TB with EPTB, but only calling it EPTB would be programmatically not the correct term. So this is a case of PTB with EPTB of the right pleura. And then they came up, then this patient, he was started on 17/3 ART, and the patient comes back about 17/3 to 6th April would be about 3 weeks later. The patient comes back to the ART center and he is complaining of diarrhea, vomiting, plus there is an anemia. So there is diarrhea, vomiting, anemia. Very rightly, the ART center gets a LFT repeated, and there are serial LFTs available which show that the liver is not the problem here. And so only symptomatic treatment is given. And for anemia, they stop CPT. And with this symptomatic treatment, the diarrhea, vomiting improved. And also now we have evidence to say that the HB of the patient has improved. So with this case summary, can I now request the Sikkim team to present their case, and then we will talk to Dr. Anwar.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Pramila Giri, Medical Officer, ART Center, Sikkim. So my case is a 30 years old male with a history of pulmonary tuberculosis. It was diagnosed in the South District of Sikkim, that is District Hospital, Namchi. And he's under ATT since 27th April. He presented with HIV positive, and he came to our center, ART center, after 2 months. So all the investigation were done. So his CD4 is 40, and all other investigation is within the range, but only in LFT, SGOT is 50, and alkaline phosphatase is 235, and his blood sugar is 144, and now he is under ATT. He is getting rifampicin, INH, and ethambutol. And after coming to ART center, we have done all the investigation and we have started CPT. And on 20th July, we have started TLE as the LFT was slightly deranged. So we have started TLE. So I just want to know whether we have to switch to DTG-based regime or not. That is it's a simple case. It doesn't have any other complaints.
Yes, I totally agree. It's a very, very interesting thing, and we are very happy that Northeast, say, Sikkim took the initiative to present a simple case. So this is a simple case of a 30-year-old male who had TB. He must have been diagnosed TB outside, maybe in the national program or in some other hospital, in some IPD. And it took 2 months to reach the HIV. Somewhere during this HIV center, somewhere during these 2 months, HIV test must have been done, and he was found positive. So he presented to the Sikkim ART Center on 21st June, and they investigate the patient. The patient is already on ATT. There is some liver dysfunction, and considering the liver dysfunction, they actually took a call to start the patient on TLD. And now the question is whether they should actually start TLD, and can they shift now? Could they have earlier itself started TLD? So this is the question that we are discussing today. there are certain other aspects of the case, both in the Lucknow case and the Sikkim case, that we could discuss. There are several points of discussion, like if a patient comes after 2 months to an ART center, does it add value to do a CBNAT at that point? Should we try to get a sputum and get a CBNAT even if somebody in the ward has not got it done? Or the people who were managing the case before you, if they have not got it done, can we at least go in for a sputum smear and LPA? So there are several other questions, but for today, I would like all of you to focus on the aspect of TLD. These are the questions about what to do and how to proceed in cases who are already diagnosed TB outside, do not have complete TB microbiological investigations, and how we should proceed once they present to the ART center. We will take up in another session. So with these few words, can I please request Dr. Anbar Pervez to kindly take his didactic on TLD in HIV TB cases.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for your kind introduction. And also, please take care of yourself. You are not well, still you are participating in this. Hope you get better soon.
Thank you so much.
And thanks everyone for joining in this session today. I'll share my slides and hope that is visible to everyone.
Yeah, it's visible. You just have to put in presentation mode.
Yeah, thank you. So,
Thank you.
and also thank you to both the SMOs who made these case presentations. Very interesting cases. Sometimes we label the case as simple, but it's really important for even that one patient to take an important decision about the ART medications, especially when we are in doubt regarding the side effect or toxicity of dolutegravir. First of all, the main objective of having this discussion in the next 20 minutes is to talk about the use of dolutegravir in HIV TB co-infected patients, especially when we are seeing deranged transaminases or liver functions, and also to discuss about what are the probable side effects and what is it we know at this juncture about dolutegravir induced toxicity or adverse effect of dolutegravir, especially in HIV TB co-infected patients. So before going ahead, just a caveat that dolutegravir, as we all know, that it is, though it is not very new drug now, but in India it is being used at this large scale for the first time. And there are many things which are, I would say, not known to us or everyone. So every day we are now shifting patients or transitioning patients from the previous regimen to the new regimens. Those include patients who have TB and those without TB but might have any other OIs as well. So we are listening these ad hoc findings from different ART centers these days regarding reported adverse effect, which are probably due to dolutegravir and which are not actually very similar to the documented adverse effects of dolutegravir. So what we will do is we will, in this short span of time, we will talk about the dolutegravir as a drug, how effective and how important it is to be the part of the regimen of for the patient first, and also for the entire country as such, as the national guidelines have changed in the direction where we are seeing most of our patients will be on dolutegravir based regimen. In fact, last or this week we also saw another OM from NACO asking us to transition the other categories of the patients also on dolutegravir. So one clear message can be, which can be for everyone, because if the medical officers are not confident about how important dolutegravir is, then it is very difficult to convince the patients or talk or counsel the patients regarding benefits of dolutegravir. So there should be a thorough acceptability for dolutegravir from the medical officer's point of view. Of course, we all are concerned about our patients, especially when it comes to toxicities. So that is one area where I think we'll try to have some discussions in this time. So these slides have been presented a couple of times before also when dolutegravir was introduced, and also transition presentations were made. But there is no harm in going again on this. Uh, uh, um, and also in especially in HIV TB co-infected patients, we know that HIV is as an important factor for reactivation of tuberculosis, or from the latent TB to conversion of latent TB to active TB disease, because of immunosuppression and many other factors. Similarly, TB also has an effect on HIV in terms of it's increasing in the viral load of HIV due to presence of active TB. There are many discussions which had happened in the past also, where we have listened to this, that if the person has HIV TB co-infection when TB is active, that may lead to increase in viral load also. So it is for a better patient outcome, it's very crucial that effective ART should be started as soon as possible, so that we control the viral load. So, and dolutegravir exactly does that, a rapid suppression of the viral load. We have seen patients discontinuing ART because of multiple toxicities, which may be because of ART as well as because of the treatment, or the treatment which we are using to treat the other opportunistic infections, and in this case, tuberculosis. So when the pill burden is high and when the patients use more than one medications, it has been seen that patient discontinue ART. And with the previous preferred ART, TLE, or efavirenz based regimen, and if we compare rates of discontinuation of that with dolutegravir based regimen, that has a clear benefit, or DTG has using DTG is a clearly beneficial for the patients in comparison with those who are on efavirenz based treatment. So we'll also talk about potency of the regimen, some drug interactions, and also about the genetic barrier to resistance uh, uh, in regards to dolutegravir as well. So there is a rapid and sustained suppression of the viral load, and if we look at this graph, so it reduces the viral load of HIV positive very fast, and which is beneficial not only for the patient but for his or her partners also, in terms of spread of HIV from one person to another. So in the initial 4 weeks or 4 to 8 weeks, you will see a rapid fall of viral load in a person who is on dolutegravir as compared to efavirenz based regimen. Similarly, as we talked about tolerability of dolutegravir, it is very well tolerated in majority of the patients, but obviously there will be some side effects. We will be talking about them in future slides. But one important thing to note is that if we compare the rate of discontinuation of ART because of side effects, dolutegravir is much more better than the other commonly used ART or efavirenz based ART, where the rates of discontinuation due to side effects, mainly due to CNS side effects, was much higher, almost to the extent of 5 times higher with the efavirenz based ART. That is another benefit of using dolutegravir. Then it has very high genetic barrier to resistance, which means that it is really difficult for the virus, for HIV virus, to develop resistance against dolutegravir. So in comparison with the other drugs where, for example, for efavirenz, we have seen due to toxicity or due to whatever reasons, if the patient is not adherent to the to efavirenz based ART, then even if they miss a few doses of the efavirenz, there can be some mutant virus in the patient's body, and which ultimately might result in failure of ART regimen itself. But when it comes to dolutegravir, in this picture, if we see the comparison of multiple ART medications to each other in terms of their potency and barrier to resistance, dolutegravir is in the upper right quadrant here, which means that it is highly potent drug, which is highly effective on the HIV virus. At the same time, it is highly or a drug with very wide genetic barrier to resistance, which means it is really difficult for the HIV virus to develop resistance against dolutegravir. And if you compare that with efavirenz, which is at the bottom on the right side, of the picture. If you compare that with dolutegravir, efavirenz also is very potent. So when we were giving TLE, it is not that it was not effective. Was really effective, efavirenz. But on the other scale, if you see in terms of having barrier to resistance, it is having poor genetic barrier to resistance. That means it is easy for the virus to develop resistance against efavirenz if the patient misses a few drugs or there is poor adherence. In comparison with dolutegravir, that regimen will become very inferior in that sense. One apprehension about use of dolutegravir was its use in pregnant women or its use in women who are in pregnancy potential. So mainly between 15 to 45 age group, for example. So dolutegravir has one of the toxicity or adverse effect which was reported in 2018 was that it may cause neural tube defect. So neural tube is something from which brain and spinal cord develops in the future in the neonates. But again, one thing is very clear that neural tube closes at first month or the end of first month of pregnancy. So if the woman is already on dolutegravir, we have to continue that woman on dolutegravir. There is no discussion over there. But the discussion was in the women who are in pregnancy potential. So should there be given dolutegravir based treatment or not? So initially everything was fine, but in 2018 there was a study in Botswana, South African country, where 4 neural tube defects were identified in 426 women, ranging to the 0.9% of prevalence of neural tube defect in patients on DTG in these women. So that raised alarm, but since that time it has been closely monitored and observed. So that risk, which was supposed to be said like 0.9%, but with continuous again surveillance and focus on this specific data, it has been seen and well documented now that prevalence has declined from 0.94 to 0.3%, and now it has stabilized to 0.19% as per the very recent WHO guidelines of July 2021. So since September 2019, it has been 0.19%, which is very almost similar to the patients in non-dolutegravir based regimen. So it doesn't make any difference if you put the patients on DTG on non-DTG based regimen, even if they are in pregnancy potential. So that also risk has to be ruled out now. So I thought that these are the important points to be remembered in all the patients, including patients on HIV-TB co-infection. It's a dolutegravir is an integrase inhibitor, and as it is integrase inhibitor, obviously it inhibits integrase enzyme, which actually takes the proviral DNA and integrates that to the human DNA. It's very important step in viral replication, and if dolutegravir is used, it will suddenly drop the viral load also. So let's come to the important section which we wanted to discuss regarding adverse effect of dolutegravir. This is from the July 2021 WHO guidelines. Now, as I said, these are the toxicity or adverse effect mentioned by WHO in the very recent guidelines, which are like proved to be side effects of dolutegravir. First of all is hepatotoxicity. About hepatotoxicity, it is okay to have the transient increase in transaminases, which are SGOT, SGPT, or ALT, AST, for like with maybe one-fold or two-fold increase in transaminases. You can still use dolutegravir. There is no need of discontinuation or to be afraid of dolutegravir in those patients. Only if I can go into depth of again the toxicity of the drugs affecting liver. So there we use Child-Pugh scoring system. Basically, this scoring system is for liver cirrhosis patients to categorize them based on their severity. But we can still use this system to decide whether we can give or cannot give dolutegravir. As per the literature, now this is a system where multiple parameters are used, including ascites, encephalopathy, total bilirubin, albumin, prothrombin time, and based on the range of all these parameters, the different points are given to the patient's scoring to make a score. And after calculating all these scores, it is categorized or decided whether the patient falls in Child-Pugh score category A, B, or C. And depending on the based on obviously these points which were calculated based on the those parameters. So it has been documented that even if there is Child-Pugh score A and B, you can still use dolutegravir. Only in the Child-Pugh score C, we should not be using dolutegravir. So this I included this just to make a point that only slight increase in serum amino should not restrict all of us from using dolutegravir and abstaining the or actually avoiding use of such a beneficial drug in all those patients who actually deserve this beautiful drug. So hepatotoxicity, there are risk factors which have been documented. Co-infection with hepatitis B or C, if that is there, you should expect hepatotoxicity. But in our scenario where we are using anti-TB drugs and some of whom which are also hepatotoxic, so there we'll have to be some extra vigilant and see that if it is only transient increase of transaminases or if the patient is having serious problem of hepatotoxicity, which is pushing the patient towards the Child-Pugh score B or C. So as I mentioned, in mild hepatotoxicity, it can be clearly used. And that's the reason in NACO guideline, also in the previous NACO presentation, also we have seen that we have not mentioned this as a prime side effect of dolutegravir. But obviously, this is something which has to be understood well and discussed before taking any drastic decisions of only slight rise of serum amino um, and we avoid using dolutegravir. So that should not happen. About hypersensitivity reactions, yeah, so that is another thing, that mild hypersensitivity reactions can happen, but those need to be very closely monitored and to avoid any situation which may be leading to toxic epidermal necrolysis and or severe hypersensitivity reactions. So in any such cases where there are severe toxicities, the obvious substitution can be efavirenz or boosted PI can be used in place of dolutegravir. So you should not hesitate again substituting dolutegravir with these drug also, but provided you are very sure or certain that it is serious side effect and not just mild adverse effect. Then insomnia, body weight gain, and obesity, these are the other side effects which have been again well documented with dolutegravir. There are risk factors which have been enlisted by WHO, that old age, that is more than 60 years of age, low CD4, female patients, and concomitant use of TAF, which is happening. TAF is tenofovir alafenamide, which is being used in private very commonly these days and is being preferred over tenofovir in private, I'm saying, not in program. But those patients are gaining weight a lot, especially in the initial months where there is sudden weight gain of 10 kg or 15 kgs or similar. So again, in those cases, we can consider morning dose. If the patient has insomnia, you can ask the patient to take dolutegravir based ART in the morning, or substitute with efavirenz if there is if it is severe, and if patient is not tolerating at all, you can consider use of boosted PA or raltegravir. But body weight monitoring and other physical or exercises and those advices also need to be given to the patients. Now, in addition to this, now this is the only thing which has been given by WHO. But there are again other things which deserve special mention, and many of our ART colleagues have come up with the other side effects, like they have reported deranged blood sugar levels. So what WHO says is that deranged blood sugar levels have been reported with the use of dolutegravir, but there is no enough evidence to analyze and say that that is happening only because of dolutegravir. So what we would say that if you are seeing such things, please document those very carefully so that in future when there is a recommendation of or mention of this, then specific action can be taken. But meanwhile, baseline, what we do, the blood sugar and suspecting diabetes in our, generally also diabetes is very common in Indian population, and management of diabetes need to be carefully seen. And if there are any derangements, and so our close discussions with the physicians and management of appropriate management of diabetes need to be considered. But dolutegravir again need to be continued unless until there are reasons or very strong reasons to stop it. The other side effect or concern raised by our colleagues have been raised serum creatinine. Now, one problem with that
Dr.
is
Anwar,
also,
sorry to disturb. I think you need to move your slide.
oops, yeah, sorry. So regarding serum creatinine, now this is the problem, that one concern which has been reported, because our patients have been in combination of dolutegravir along with tenofovir. So tenofovir, as we all know, that is a nephrotoxic drug. So dolutegravir is not nephrotoxic. So that is number one, which I think should be very clear. But there can be slight or very slight increase in serum creatinine with the use of dolutegravir. Now, this does not happen because of any agglomeration effect or things which happen because of tenofovir. But it happens because of inhibition of actually secretion of creatinine from the nephrons. So DTG associated elevation in serum creatinine are typically very mild, like 0.1 to 0.2 milligram per deciliter, which may occur very transiently or initially within 4 weeks after starting of dolutegravir, and they remain stable after that. And increase in serum creatinine by inhibiting tubular secretion of creatinine, but has no effect on actual glomerular filtration rate. So we should not be worried about this specific thing in relation to dolutegravir. I'm spending more time here because I've heard this a lot from our colleagues, that dolutegravir is causing increase in serum creatinine. So that may be because of tenofovir and not because of dolutegravir. But our colleagues have also mentioned that patient's creatinine was okay when the patient was on TLE based regimen, and with TLD this has been observed. So that may be transient and that may be very minimal. But again, within a month's time, that will should go back to normal. But again, that has to be closely observed, and if there is any issue, patients should be referred to SASEP for advice. And one last thing about the drug-drug interaction. So the dolutegravir interacts with many drugs. Fortunately, with the first-line anti-TB drugs, there are no major interactions except with rifampicin, where it interacts because, again, rifampicin, like many other drugs, which we because of we usually use the other drugs, when we use the other drugs along with rifampicin, we use it with carefully. We change it to efavirenz also. We earlier we used to use with nevirapine. But when we are using dolutegravir, we increase the dose of dolutegravir to like 2 times a day in place of 1 time a day. Uh, um, but again, this double dose of rifampicin has to stop after completion of rifampicin-based treatment in TB patients, and after 6 months, again the patients will go back to the OD dose of dolutegravir. Similarly, there are other drugs with whom dolutegravir interacts, like carbamazepine and phenytoin, and also metformin. Metformin, the guidance is that you should not be using metformin more than 1,000 milligram of metformin per day when the patient is on dolutegravir. Otherwise, it is fine. And with the common drugs like iron and calcium and zinc, if we want to give dolutegravir along with these drugs, the DTG should be given at least 2 hours before or 6 hours after these supplements. So, and in addition to this, again, I've seen some pictures have been shared, which people have claimed that those are the side effects of dolutegravir, like one of the case of buffalo hump I've seen, and another 3 cases of nail discoloration, like we used to see with zidovudin. So those are the things which have been anecdotal reporting from some of the ART centers. But in the literature, it has not been said that those are because of dolutegravir as of now. So one important activity which is being led by Dr. Reshu, who is on this call, is AE monitoring of dolutegravir, which is happening in our own ART centers currently. And it is in a very good shape now to give out the initial results. So very soon we will know that in Indian population whether there are any additional side effects of dolutegravir or not. Until that time, I think it is very important for all of us to keep reporting the adverse effects of dolutegravir if you think that those are because of dolutegravir, so that at appropriate time, appropriate guidelines can be circulated. So just to wrap it up, now in dolutegravir based treatment or TLD is the preferred first line in both TB co-infected or even if the person is not having TB, but there are all other types of patients are being started on dolutegravir based treatment, or TLD has become the preferred first line. And in the people who are more than 6 years of age or more than 30 kg of weight, you can safely use dolutegravir. But if you can't use that because of age or weight barriers, then alternate drugs like abacavir for patients who are having less than 30 kg of weight. So that regimen can be used, abacavir based regimen. And if if the age is less than 6 years, then again the other substitutions are made, like abacavir based treatment or zidovudin based treatment. So I think because of again time limitation, I'll stop here. If there are any more questions, I'll be happy to talk about or discuss. But again, the bottom line is that it is very effective drug in both in HIV and TB co-infected patients, and also the other patients otherwise as well with other opportunistic infections. And in both these cases, the use of dolutegravir will have been will be very important and crucial for the better outcomes of TB as well as HIV. So I think I'll stop here. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, we'll discuss.
Dr. Parvez, thank you, Dr. Anwar. So before I open the house to Dr. Anwar, I would just like to summarize in a few minutes, seconds probably, what he said. I'll try to do justice to this. We had a talk on dolutegravir in HIV/TB patients by Dr. Reshu also, just before it was launched in the country. So now we are talking about a very specific aspect, the side effects, and this is now being again talked because as Dr. Anwar began his talk by saying that reinforcement, and when you actually start using, the practical use is when you will start worrying about the side effects and the drug-drug interactions. So even though we had a talk then, we have another one now, and probably we will come back to dolutegravir presentation once again. The reinforcement is very important at this stage when a new drug is being introduced. So just to summarize Dr. Anwar's talk, see, dolutegravir is an excellent drug. It has clear benefit over other ART regimens. Why? Because A, it causes a rapider viral suppression. So you can expect a viral suppression in a patient on dolutegravir-based ART in 4 weeks versus 12 weeks as it was in the case of efavirenz. So not only is it faster, also the number of people who get suppressed at 48 weeks, at 6 weeks, and so on and so forth are more when you give patients dolutegravir-based regimens as compared to efavirenz-based regimens, it has a higher barrier to genetic barrier to resistance. And as he pointed out, that as of today, there is no known case of somebody who developed a resistance to dolutegravir following treatment with dolutegravir, which is absolutely excellent. It has lesser toxicities, it has lesser drug-drug interactions, it can be used with rifampicin, it can be used in pregnant women, and it is also effective against HIV too. So these are clear benefits why the program and the country has moved towards a DTG-based regimen. Now, somebody might say that efavirenz was also doing well, and efavirenz also probably had all these benefits, then why did we shift to efavirenz? And I would just like all of you to remember the beautiful graph that Dr. Anwar had shown. And in that graph, he had shown that yes, efavirenz was very, very potent. It was practically similar, it had a similar potency to DTG. If you would look at the graph, and the x-axis was the potency could have been comparable to DTG. But when we went to the y-axis, which was resistance to resistance, then DTG definitely had a superior role. So it had a clear benefit when it came to development of resistance while on treatment. Another important aspect that he told us was that we no longer need to fear giving DTG in children of childbearing age or women who are pregnant, because over the years with proper research, it has been shown that only 0.1% of women who get pregnant on a DTG-based regimen have certain birth defects known as neural tube defects, and they are not more than what we see in the baseline when we give some other non-DTG based regimens. So actually there is no increase in the risk after it has been properly studied. This is the conclusion that they have come. Now coming to the very, very important aspect of side effects. First, he informed hepatotoxicity. Hepatotoxicity, as informed by Dr. Anwar, it is not a major problem with the DTG-based regimen. DTG probably causes some transient increase once, twice, or 3 times the normal in SGOT, LGBT. But frankly, it does not cause a lot of hepatotoxicity. The fear of hepatotoxicity is only there when you have some other hepatic insult. Like the patient also has hepatitis B or hepatitis C or chronic cirrhosis or some other acute liver infection. That is when it becomes a problem, and that is when we should think twice before probably using DTG. But per se, transient increases in enzymes with or without rifampicin is really not an indication to give or not to, not to give dolutegravir. The other thing he said was efavirenz, as is case, the other thing he said was hypersensitivity. As is the case of all hypersensitivities, if you have a severe hypersensitivity, then you will never use the drug again. If it is a mild allergic reaction, then you could probably use your symptomatic treatment and anti-allergics and H1 and H2 blockers. If it's a severe hypersensitivity, please do not use the class again, shift to efavirenz. Another interesting side effect that he told was insomnia, but it is mostly limited to the elderly. And the easy thing to do here is to give DTG in the morning. So give your TLD in the morning instead of the night. Another one was weight gain, which is more commonly seen in women and people who have lesser CD4 counts and higher viral loads. And also probably in the private sector, people who have TAF. So in such cases, again, what we always do for weight gain, which is we talk to them about diet and exercise and what is a healthy lifestyle. There is really no great indication for shifting to some other drug or switching. The fifth thing that he told us was some derangement of blood sugar levels, which are time and again being reported from our centers and his colleagues. So the research till date on this says that yes, there is some reporting of deranged blood sugar with TBG, but that hyperglycemia or deranged blood sugars, whether they are linked to the use of dolutegravir or whether they are linked to some other metabolic factors in the patient, are still not clear. So as of today's recommendation, we are not withholding DTG from a diabetic or for someone who shows one value of hyperglycemia, or somebody who is recently diagnosed with diabetic. So we are not withholding DTG from any such person, but yes, we have to be vigilant about what is happening to the blood sugar levels, especially in this diabetic or pre-diabetic group. Another thing that has been reported by the field as per Dr. Anwar's experience is increased in serum creatinine. This mild elevation of serum creatinine that you see with DTG is a transient phenomenon. It usually settles in a month or so, and it is because of initial increase of tubular secretion of creatinine. Will it be increased? So it is an initial decrease of secretion of creatinine from the renal tubules, which finally settles. A homeostasis takes place in a month or so, and these transient elevations go away. There is no effect on the GFR, so we really don't have to worry a lot about the kidney problems. Now, after this, what Dr. Anwar told us today was that the drug interactions are same as can be seen with some drugs of rifampicin, like phenytoin, like carbamazepine, and also rifampicin, these are all CYP inducers. So there can be some drug-drug interactions with CYP inducers, and when we have to give rifampicin, thankfully, if we double the dose of DTG, then we are able to mitigate the result of the effect of a CYP induction by rifampicin, and we can easily use them together. They are compatible. So when you have to use DTG with rifampicin in our HIV TB cases, we have to give dolutegravir 50 milligram morning, 50 milligram evening. 150 milligram will go with your TLD. The other 50 milligram has to be given separately. And till when do you have to complete this increased dose? You have to continue this increased dose till the patient has been off rifampicin for more than 2 weeks. So it is not as if today ATT is stopped, rifampicin is stopped, and today you will shift back the patient to DTG 50 milligram OD. You will wait for 2 weeks because it takes 2 weeks for the hepatic system to become okay again after giving rifampicin. So once the hepatic system, the metabolism, the CYP induction comes back to normal, it will take 2 weeks, and that is when you will come back to your DTG 50 milligram. One very important thing that I thought in this topic was that please, patients who are on DTG and metformin, please remember, do not increase the dose of metformin more than 1000 milligram per day. Metformin TDS, metformin 2-tablet BD is a very, very common co-prescription with DTG and in our HIV patients. Please remember, metformin 1000 se zyada nahi dena hai. 1000 milligram is the max when you give metformin with DTG. So with this talk about dolutegravir, Dr. Anwar also addressed the problem. We had a question from Karnataka. Karnataka, the medical officer, Dr. Priyadarshini, had asked a question saying that in her experience, when she has used TLD, she has seen 3 patients who had pigmentation of the skin similar to zidovudine. It was causing cosmetic problems, and it was an issue with these patients because it was causing a cosmetic problem. This request was obviously forwarded by Dr. Rajashekaran, who is the doyen of HIV-TB. And Dr. Anwar answered that these are anecdotal things which are being reported, which have not yet been reported, are not yet present in the literature, are not yet being tackled in the guidelines, because there is very, very limited literature on pigmentation of skin. So for this, he was requesting that we should keep on recording them and probably get in touch with Reshu ma'am and tell her about these side effects. So with this summarization, I am now opening the session. I'm opening the discussion to the house. Any questions, any comments, anything anyone would want to ask Dr. Anwar?
Ma'am, there is a query in the chat box.
Yeah.
Dr. Rakesh Gupta is asking, what about use of folic acid to prevent NTD with
Okay.
The folic acid will not prevent, first of all, establishing direct correlation between NTD and DTG. That is a big question there. Second, we give folic acid, because deficiency, iron deficiency itself is one of the causes of NTD. Obviously, if the woman is pregnant, and folic acid should be given for prevention or one of the preventive measures of NTD. But along with DTG, I don't think there is any effect of reducing the risk of NTD by use of folic acid.
True. Actually, this is the question. This is the dilemma. You see, if a mother is deficient in folate, then the chances of neural tube defect are as it is slightly more than the average. And if you're deficient in folate, you're HIV positive, you have nutritional deficiencies, you're also getting DTG, you do not know from where you might get the neural tube defect, even and when or if you get it. So that is the whole issue, that there is no proper correlation. But yes, in pregnancy, early pregnancy, even when you're planning to get pregnant, it's a good idea to have folate.
Ma'am, I have a question. Dr. Neetu from KGM.
Thank you, Dr.
First of all, thank you, sir, for such a nice presentation. I have a couple of questions related. One is related to your presentation, sir. Like in drug reactions, you said in children we have to continue double dose of DTG for 2 weeks after stopping rifampicin. For children. In adults, we got a...
No.
Yes.
Can I respond to that? I think I mispronounced that. So for all patients who are on TB and dolutegravir treatment together, so after completion of rifampicin based treatment, the double dose need to be stopped, and then single dose will be continued, including children.
Immediately after stopping the rifampicin therapy. We are doing that in adults.
Yes, ma'am. So same is for children.
And second question, sir, it's not related to the presentation, but we got a new OM on 17th. Now we are shifting all the regimens to DTG based regimens. Like ZL, if a ZL based regimens, we are even shifting if a ZLE and ZL lopinavir to TLD.
Yes.
So will this not compromise the chances of using TL for the future in case of failure we are having? So like we are using both the zidovudine and TLD we are using, we will lose the chances of using another, like TL we can use in case of failure, we are having failure with ZL. If we have failure with ZL.
That's a great question, ma'am. See, if that is the reason we are using viral load before doing all these substitutions and switches. So if you are doing viral load and at the time you are transitioning the patient from zidovudine or any regimen to dolutegravir based regimen, and if the viral load is suppressed, then you know that the ART which you were using before was still active, and the patients might not have developed resistance to those drugs. And now you have continued the patient's treatment on dolutegravir, which will again keep the viral load suppressed, and will not allow the resistance mutants to come up again. So in future, if there is need be, and if we want to use zidovudine in such patients, so there will be an option available of using zidovudine in such patients if the viral load was normal or suppressed at the time of substitution.
Okay. Now, if that patient on TLD is in failure, then we can use ZL and atazanavir in that case. Okay.
No, then for the second line, if the patient was suppose already on dolutegravir based treatment in the previous line of treatment, in the next line of treatment, if you want to use again, then there will be a double dose of dolutegravir again.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Pramila, is your from Sikkim, is your query answered? Would you feel comfortable shifting the patient to TLD?
Yes, ma'am. He's on TLE. So now it is a simple case. So I can switch to TLD.
Dr. Anwar, please respond.
Sure, ma'am. As it was very slight increase in transaminase in your case, just from 40 to 50. I don't think you should make any delay in moving the patient from TLE to TLD. You can do it.
Sir, can I have that dose, sir? That TLD?
So the patient is dose you are asking, ma'am?
Yes, yes.
The patient is already on rifampicin based treatment now, right?
Yes, sir.
So there will be double dose of dolutegravir. So you will give TLD as a single tablet plus additional dolutegravir tablets after 12 hours.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Dr. Reshu, would you like to give some expert comments?
Thank you so much, Dr. Upasana. I think Dr. Anwar has already discussed all the major points related to DTG and both the cases. I would just want to make one suggestion that whenever you are getting any adverse event after giving DTG, don't just label it to DTG. It is not always DTG, which is culprit or which causes these side effects or adverse effects. It could be the other drugs on which the patient is. So you should never forget and think about the other drugs which could have also caused those side effects, or it could be because of the drug-drug interaction. So that is something we should always keep in mind. And as Dr. Anwar initially said, that we need to have this confidence in this new drug. Otherwise, it will be very difficult for us to to tackle our patients and give them this confidence. So I think with everyone should go with a confidence in DTG-based regimen after this session. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And I can see that we have our senior colleagues from NTI Bangalore joining us. So would you want to give some expert comments or probably tell something to the audience? I think NTI Bangalore? No. Would you like to say something, sir? I hope you're simultaneously, everybody is doing the post-test questionnaire. Yeah. Any other comment? Any other thing that you would like to say? Anyone from the house? Dr. Dharampal, sir, would you want to say something?
If I can, ma'am, just one comment which I forgot to
Yes,
mention
please.
that during the
Please do, Dr.
presentation.
Please do,
Yeah,
Dr.
then the newer anti-TB drugs. So those do not, both bedaquiline and delamanide, they both do not have any interaction with dolutegravir, fortunately. So that was one thing which. So in the very common drugs, what we use for TB, only other than rifampicin, other drugs are safe. Yeah. Sorry, sir. Please go ahead.
So that's great. The great news about dolutegravir is you can use it with all the newer TB drugs. You can use it with all the second line drugs. You can use it with rifampicin. And the beauty is when you use it for DRTB regimens, with or without bedaquiline, with or without delamanid, you do not need to change the dose to 50 BD. The usual TLD 1 OD is sufficient because none of the drugs used in DRTB regimens cause CYP induction. Okay, so please remember for second line ART, for second line ATT, third line ATT, treatment of MDR-TB, treatment of XDR-TB, treatment of pre-XDR-TB, it will always be TLD 1 OD.
One more question, ma'am.
Yes, please go ahead.
Suppose, ma'am, we are using patient, we are having a patient who is on drug DTG and lopinavir, which we are using as second line treatment.
Correct.
So in that case, we will have to give rifabutin instead of rifampicin. It's rare
Correct.
cases.
Yeah.
So rifabutin is right now it's not available under NEP, and even
Yeah.
it's not available in the market.
Yeah,
So in
is
that case, we have to super boost the lopinavir with ritonavir, or we have to wait for rifabutin.
Actually, in case of TB and also in the scenario of ART, we cannot wait. We can't wait for the market to give us rifabutin. I know it's a pain to super boost lopinavir. It's a real pain. It is actually a real pain. But what to do? Like this is market-led things, like pharma company-led things. And if it is not available, it is not available. So though we do not need to use, we do not need to super boost because of DTG. We have to super boost with. We don't have to. With rifampicin, we can give DTG by increasing the strength of DTG. The problem comes with lopinavir, ritonavir. And earlier we have used rifabutin in several patients in our hospital. Actually, even earlier, there used to be some cases which could not tolerate efavirenz, like they would have seizures or there would be some problem or the other. So we have used rifabutin in several patients. We have also used it in NTM, in the management of non-TB mycobacteria. But this is becoming a problem now. There is no
Ma'am,
rifabutin.
actually, till now we were receiving rifabutin from RNTCP only. But right now, I think they got a circular like that. Now the DTG regimens are here. So rifabutin will not be supplied from your side, from the RNTCP side. So that is the main thing.
Okay, so
So for rare cases, if RNTCP can provide with rifabutin, that's great.
actually RNTCP should provide, because HIV program cannot start providing anti-TB drug. Anti-TB drug has to be provided by the National TB Control Program. If such an issue is happening, please give me some time. In the next session, I will get back to you. I will talk to somebody in CTD and in a state TB office and tell you what is the logistic arrangement now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So are we done? Are we done with the feedback? So we are also on the feedback. Anuradha, can I request you to do the post test?
And the post test has been completed, and we have also done.
Answer bata do. Ab answers bata do.
Yes, ma'am. I'll go. So the first question for that pre and post test was, when should the additional dose of DTG stopped after completion of rifampicin-based TB treatment? The correct answer to it is immediately after completion of TB treatment. The second question was, drug interactions are not expected among DTG, and which of the following anti-TB medication? The choices were bedaquiline, delamanite, rifampicin. The correct answer is both 1 and 2. That is bedaquiline and delamanite. And ma'am,
so thank you everyone. And with this, I think I would now close the session. Thank you, Dr. Anwar. Thank you, ART Center Sikkim. Thank you, ART Center Lucknow. And if anybody wants to refresh what was talked today, you could join us again next Thursday when we will be taking the same session for our states of UP, Delhi and West Bengal. So with this, I'll sign off.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.